writers, I'm Jamie Raintree, the author of 2 women's fiction novels and the creator of the Writing and Revision Tracker. And this video is to take you on a walkthrough of the new Writing and Revision Tracker. Now, if you've used the tracker in the past, you're probably used to there being a couple of changes every year, but this year is going to be a little bit different, and I want to tell you why. I've always said that I would continue to update the tracker for as long as it continued to make sense to do so. But unfortunately, I do feel like we've reached the point that it doesn't make sense to continue to update it every year. And there are a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is that I have been back in school for the last couple of years, so that means that my priorities and my time and energy have had to shift in that direction. But more importantly, the second reason is that after 10 years of taking your guys' amazing suggestions, I just feel like the tracker has reached the point where it can't really get any better, and that's a really great feeling. So I could continue to try to add new features each year, but I worry that that would make it clunky and harder to use. So at this point, I just feel like it makes more sense to go ahead and release it into your guys' capable hands and not continue to put it out every year. But of course, I would never leave you guys hanging, so I've made a couple of changes to make it possible for you to continue to use the Writing and Revision Tracker for as long as you want to. So the first change that I made to the tracker is that it is now undated. So what that means is that when you download the tracker this time, you're going to keep that copy as your master copy, and then each year you'll make a duplicate copy of your master copy, fill in the dates for that particular year, and then you'll be set to go for that year. And by doing this, you'll be able to continue to make as many copies of the tracker as you need so that you can continue to use it for as long as you want. I think this is going to be really great for you guys so that you don't have to make a new purchase of it every single year. The second change that I made that I'm really excited about is something I've wanted to do for a very long time, but have not been able to do because it really just does take a long time to make the changes to the tracker each year. And that is that I have made a smaller, more compact version of the tracker that only has 5 projects. It still has all the same features of the tracker, but it's smaller for those of us who, like me, only work on a couple of projects each year. I'm really excited to be able to offer these 2 versions of the Writing and Revision Tracker for you to use for as long as you want, and I hope to be able to continue to support you in this way for many years to come. I also want to take this opportunity to thank you all so much for being such great supporters of me and this project, and I am just so grateful to be able to have had the opportunity to connect with so many motivated and inspiring writers. So let's go ahead and jump into the walkthrough. When you first download the Writing and Revision Tracker, as I said, the first thing you're going to want to do is to make sure that you save that original copy as your master copy. So you're going to want to put it somewhere safe. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder and call it Master Copy, Writing and Revision Tracker, because we want to make sure that as the years go by, we don't forget that this is the copy that we don't want to edit. If you make any changes to this version of the tracker, it's going to appear in every duplicate that you make in future years. So that's why we want to keep it blank. So once we have our special folder where we're going to keep it safe, we're going to put that in there. And then when you start a new year, you'll come to this version of the tracker, right-click on it, hit duplicate, and that will create a second copy of the tracker. Then we'll just go in and edit the name of it. So this coming year is 2021. I'm just going to delete this copy here. So now I know that this is the 2021 year. And then next time I can duplicate it again to create one for 2022 and so on and so forth. So now that we have our copy for this year, we can open it up and start making changes to it. Now, when you first open up this page, it's going to come to some quick use notes, which we're going to talk about as we go through the spreadsheet. But the most important thing you'll want to take note of is the key. The red bordered areas throughout the spreadsheet are the input areas, and these are the only areas where you want to put data. The reason for this is because all the other cells or most other cells have functions in them. And if you delete the function from the cell, it won't create the calculations that the Writing and Revision Tracker is known for. So I actually have the spreadsheet locked for all the cells that have functions in them so that you won't accidentally delete one, because I do it all the time. Fortunately, I know the formula so I can go in and fix it. But it happens, and I keep it locked even for myself so that I don't accidentally delete something and have to deal with that. And it actually makes it easier to use. However, if for any reason you do want to make any changes to your spreadsheet, you can always go to the Review tab, hit Unprotect Sheet, and it will take the protection off. There's no password, so you can just take it off and make any changes that you need to make. However, just be careful when you're making any changes, because if you delete something, it's more difficult to go back and fix it. So I actually recommend keeping the protection on so that it makes it actually easier to navigate through the spreadsheet and you're not getting caught up in cells that you don't need to make any changes to. So we're going to hop down to this first tab where it says Planner and click on over. Now you'll see that this is the 10 project version. The 5 project version looks exactly the same except that it only has 5 projects. So it's going to look a little bit more compact. It has all the same features, but it's a little bit less busy if, like me, you like to have it a little bit more comfortable to use when you're only doing a couple of projects at a time. So on this first project here, we can set a due date. This is not tied to any formula, and if you're not like on a publication schedule or anything, you can set your own due date for yourself. This is just a note for yourself on when you're trying to finish this project. So let's say we're going to try to finish it, the first draft, by halfway through the year. So I'll put in 06, 01, 21. You're just going to want to make sure that you format the date as it says here in this note that pops up, because Excel is really finicky. So if you don't put it in properly on some of these, then it won't calculate your numbers correctly. So we've got the date there. We're going to put in the title. So on the title, you're just going to want to make sure that you don't overrun the cell. So if you were to put a long title in here and hit enter, you'll notice that it drops off the last parts of the words. And that's because when you go into the month layout, it actually pulls from the project title field to fill in these titles across the top here. But there's only so much space for the title. So if you have a really long title, I would recommend shortening it in one way or another. You can either do an acronym, or you can just do the first word or first couple of words, whatever works for you, because you'll know what it is. Then you can write a short description. That's just for yourself. You can put in the genre. And then we can get into the fun stuff. So down here in the writing goal, this is going to be however many words you're planning to write on this project for this year. So say I already started it the year before and I've already written 20,000 words, but I have 45,000 more words to write. I'm going to want to put the 45,000 words in here because it's going to use the numbers that you put into the month spreadsheets to calculate how many words you've written just for this year. So we're going to put in the 45,000 for this year. We'll say that we're going to do a start date of the first day of the year. Hit enter. It'll take you down to the end date, and we're going to say that we want to finish it by, let's say, April 30th. So that gives us some time to edit. And hit enter. So now what these calculations are going to do is use the start date that you put in and the end date to calculate how many days you have left in the project. And what's really cool about this formulation is as you start to pass the first day of your start date, this is going to count down every day that passes. So as we get into February and March, you're going to see this number going down for how many days you have left. Then it's going to take how many words you have left, and it's actually going to pull from the month layouts when you enter your word counts for the day to calculate how many words you've actually already written and subtract it from how many words you have left. So if you've written 20,000 words in January, you'll see this number go down to 25,000 words. And then however many days are left, and then it's going to give you a calculation based on that to show how many words per day you need to write in order to reach your goal. And then the revision will work the same way. Now, with revision, I get a lot of people asking me, how do I calculate my revisions? And the short answer is it's completely up to you. I know that this is a bit more difficult, a little less straightforward than a writing goal. I personally like to track my revisions by pages. So let's say we finished, we'll go ahead and put in the start date here for revisions. We'll call it the 1st of May. And we'll put in an end date of the June 30th of when I'm hoping to have the project done. And then we'll say that the book ends up being 200 pages. So I'm just going to put 200 pages because I want to edit the whole book in that time. And then it's going to give me numbers here for how many days I have left, how many pages left, and how many pages per day. Now, some people calculate, for instance, how many words they subtract from their novel. So they might have a negative number, and the spreadsheet will accommodate that. Some people also just have functions on how they like to calculate it. It's really up to you. The most important thing is that once you decide on a way to track your revisions, you're going to want to stick with that for every project revision for all of your projects. Because otherwise, once you get to the totals page at the very end, if you use different formulations, it's going to give you a weird number that doesn't really reflect what you've actually done. So the other thing to keep in mind is that if you are working on shorter forms, say short stories or blogs or poems, you may want to group those depending on how many you work on in a year. So if you're one of those really prolific writers who writes, say, 6 or 8 books in a year, and then you write, 10 or 20 or 30 poems, and then you're blogging as well, you are going to want to try to group those in because obviously there are only 10 projects here. And with the shorter forms, usually you're only working on them for maybe a few weeks or a few months. So it doesn't need to take up the whole year and you can work on one at a time and group them together. Otherwise, there are some ways you can check out my website on how to use multiple spreadsheets in a year if you have a lot of projects that you want to track. But let's say we're going to go ahead and keep track of our short stories for the year. So I might put short stories. Actually, you know what? Let's do flash fiction. I know some people who do flash fiction and they set themselves a goal of doing, say, 500 words every week. So if we calculate that, 500 times 52 weeks, we will get 26,000 words for the year. We might put in the start date of the very first day of the year, and then put the end date as the last day of the year. So now you'll see we have 365 days left. Again, that will count down as you continue to move forward in the year. We have 26,000 words, and that's going to give you 71 words per day in order to hit that goal. We can put in our end date here and put in a short description. So say we do flash fiction submissions, or however you want to describe that. Okay, so now we have a couple of projects. Let's go ahead and move into the month layout. When you first open the month layout, you're going to see that, as I said, it is now undated. So you won't have any numbers in here. And that's the very first thing that we're going to want to fix when we come in. So we're going to want to make this look like a month layout. So if we are looking at the next year, so say we're using 2021 as our example, in January, it starts on Friday. So we're just going to put 1 here on Friday and go ahead and put in the dates just like using a normal calendar. And the great part about having it locked, other than the cells that you can edit, is that it automatically drops down to the next cell that you can edit rather than having to deal with all these other cells that you can't put any information in. So that makes it easy to go ahead and pop those numbers in. What you're also going to notice is as you put in the numbers here in the calendar layout, it actually is going to call those numbers down in here next to the columns where you can enter in your writing data. So as I continue to put them in, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then we go ahead and look back down here, you'll see that these numbers are filling in as you fill them in. So let's go ahead and finish filling them in for the rest of the month. You can just use your tab key or you can use your arrow keys to take you from one cell to the next. Okay, so now we've got them all filled out. Now you'll see this is only filling up 5 weeks of the month layout calendar that you have here. I've had to put in 6 weeks though, because for instance, if this month were to have started on Saturday, this would have dropped the 31 down into the next week. So it just depends on how long the month is and how many weeks it takes up. There may be times where February starts on the Monday and only fills up 4 weeks, and you have 2 weeks at the end. That's just the way it worked out for making sure that you have plenty of space so that you can always put in any month that might occur during the year. And then you'll scroll down here and see that we now have all of these filled in. So in order to input numbers and make sure that they show up properly where they belong, you'll want to make sure that you look at the cells that you have here with the numbers next to them. So if I want to start on my romance on the first day of the year, and let's say I write 250 words on that day, then I'll enter it there. And then when I come back up here, you'll see that it's displaying in the proper cell where it's supposed to go. You'll also see that we now have calculations happening. So this is going to be your week total for this month. You'll have a week total for every single week, and then it calculates a month total here for writing and for revision. Now, you'll notice that we have these graphs here that aren't displaying anything. If you want a graph to display, you will have to put in a goal for that particular month because this is a graph for your month progress. So if I'm working on my romance and we decided that we were going to do 45,000 words of that this year, I'm not going to do all 45,000 words of that this month. So let's say I want to plan on accomplishing 20,000 words of that in this month. I'm going to put 20,000 words in the writing goal. And now you'll see, oh, a tiny little, let's put in some more numbers, a tiny little graph there. Okay, so putting in numbers throughout the month. And now if we go up here, we'll see that we're making progress toward that 20,000 word goal. Let's go ahead and say we have a really good writing day and write 2,500 words. Now we'll really see that graph start to pop up here. And so if you want to do that for revision as well, depending on where you're working at, just fill in the information for whatever you're working on for that particular month. So say for flash fiction, we're setting a goal. We said we were going to do 500 words each week, which would make it 2,000 for the writing goal. And then as I get started throughout the month, we'll say I did 500 here. I did 500 here. I did 500 here. Oops, we went too far. 500 here. And let's say we did 500 here. Okay, so now you'll see that it's calculating how many words I've actually written toward my goal. It's giving me a percentage toward my goal. Here we have 20% progress. Here we have 100% progress. And if you come up here to the graph, you'll now see that we have reached 100% of our goal for the month. You're also going to see that these numbers are showing up in here throughout the month, so you can easily see how much you've written, how much you've revised. You're getting week totals for every week for all the projects, and then a month total for all your writing projects. If we were putting in revisions here, then you'd see some numbers showing up here as well. And then once we've put in our goals for the month, we get the graphs. Over here at the at a glance on the right side, this is a quick glance for your entire year progress. So what this will do is actually calculate your total writing goal for the year. You'll notice that it's 71,000. If you remember back on our project page, we put in that we wanted to write 45,000 words for the romance novel and 26,000 words for the flash fiction. And so that's calculating all of those goals, and it will calculate a one number for all of the projects that you input for writing and for revision. And then as you enter numbers into your column layout here, it is going to give you a total calculation for how much writing you've done toward your total writing goal for the entire year for all projects, and then give you a percentage complete. So you can see we've already reached 8% of our goal here in January. It will do the same thing for revision. The month objective I changed a little bit from before, so rather than just having one cell to input, I like to list things, so I put these in. You can go in and change it if you want to make it however works for you. But you now have multiple cells to enter data in, and I've got it set up to look like a list. So once you click on a cell, you'll come up here and you'll see if you click, it will have that bullet there for you. So let's say that we're going to write scenes 12 through 30 of the romance novel. And then you can hit enter. And let's say we're going to write Halloween short story. And we're going to write a Christmas short story. And we're going to do a writing prompt for our writers group. Again, these will cut off if they go too long, so we'll just have to make them fit. Okay, so if you can accidentally delete this bullet point because it's not a formula or anything. If you do accidentally do that, just click on another one, go up here, highlight it, copy it, go back to the cell that you deleted it from and paste it, and now you've got your bullet point again. Looks like we need to take a space out there. Okay, so this is just a short way to know what you're focusing on over the course of this month in words rather than just numbers. We also have another spot that allows for words, and that's this notes section over here on the end. So say we wrote 250 words on our romance novel and we just want to make a note of what we did. So you can put in finished scene 12. That way you know what you actually accomplished. And say you worked on your flash fiction as well, you can just put a comma and put in worked on Halloween short story. So that's just a nice way to keep track of what it is you're actually working on. You can put anything in there. Maybe you want to keep track of where you are when you are writing things so that maybe you can take a look back and see where have you had your most productive writing days. Whatever you want to use it for, that's just a nice little place to leave notes. So that is how the month layout works. And I just want to make note of one more thing. In previous versions, I have always had it so that the first week of the month, if you pop over to February, so we know that January ended on a Sunday, so that means that February is going to start on a Monday. Oh, look, it's going to be that short month we talked about. Let's go ahead and put it in. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so you get the point anyway. So we're going to have this, it's only going to go up to week 4. You'll also notice we have a number in here. And that is because I have set it up to pull the numbers from the previous week into this first week to give you a week total. You'll notice that it doesn't adjust your month total. The month total actually pulls from these numbers down here. So you won't have extra words in here calculated for February that you did not actually write in February. This is just so that you get an accurate depiction of the week total for that particular week. So when you go back to January, you'll notice that we have 5 weeks out of the 6 weeks here. So the way the formula calculates is it's going to pull from the 6th week, and then if there's nothing in this 6th week, it's going to pull from the 5th week. And then if there's nothing in this 5th week, it's going to pull from the 4th week. So it'll only go up to 4th week. However, if you are working throughout the month, it might start pulling from the 4th week and you'll see a number in that first week of February when you haven't really started February yet. But as you move into the 5th week and or the 6th week, then it will update as you go. So don't worry about it showing numbers that aren't accurate. It will adjust as you continue to work through the month. So that's how the month layout works. The last thing that we're going to look at is the totals. So we have all of these tabs here across the bottom. You will need to get to, in order to get to the totals page, you will have to use this arrow down here and hit totals. So now you'll see on the totals page that we have the titles that we've input here. We have the goals that we input from the first project planner page. That's going to show up here. It's going to give you calculations for each of your projects, for how many words you wrote for each of those projects in each month. It will also give you a total for however many words you wrote for January for all of your projects, but also it's going to give you a total for all of your projects throughout the months over here. Then it will give you a percentage of how much you've completed toward your goal for the entire project here. And then it will add up all of your writing numbers here and give you a total for the year. It will also do the same thing for your revision goals as you make progress throughout the year. So now let's just take a quick peek at the 5 project version. So you'll see it has a ×5 here so that you know that you're working with the 5 project version. In the planner, it's going to look the same, except you're just going to have 5 projects. And then in the month layout, you're going to see that we have 5 projects here, and the notes are moved over so that you have a little bit more space to see what you're working on here. But it just makes it a little bit smaller and more compact to work with. And then if we hop on over to the totals page, you'll see it's a little bit smaller here with just the 5 projects, but all of the functions work exactly the same for both the 10 project version and the 5 project version. So that is your writing and revision tracker walkthrough. I hope that helps. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me at author@jamieraintree.com, and I wish you all the best of luck with all of your writing goals.